Okay, this is Fred Caney Valley Bigfooting, and tonight we're having a podcast on uh, possible food sources for Sasquatch. And my guest this evening is Sharon Day. I got Daniel Benoit. He's floating around somewhere, and whoever wants to join in, y'all can come on and join in. Uh, Basically, the chat we're going to have this evening is possible food sources for the Sasquatch. Now, all the researchers anywhere in the United States to a percentage knows or what's that word or has an idea of what Sasquatch is mighty. You know, you got like berries, certain pine cone nuts that they eat. You got turkey berries, which is on the ground. You got meat, deer meat, grouse feathers, anything like that. Sharon, can you add to the mix on your idea on possible good food sources for
Well, I
Sasquatch?
did study nutrition in college, and so yeah. One thing I want to get across, first of all, is a lot of people worry about the meat source for Sasquatch, and yeah, there's plenty of meat, and obviously they do like it. But we don't have to worry too much about the availability because what we know about gorillas and what we know about vegan weightlifters, you don't have to eat meat to have incredible muscle structure. So that aside, we know you can build an incredible body without a meat source. But lucky for them, they live near streams and they live in the woods. So they've got plenty of really good meat sources. And some of them are really interesting. I started looking at the calories of meat, wild meat, what it's got as far as nutrition. And wild boar, you eat a pound of raw wild boar, it's 544 calories. Now that's pretty good. Now you're also thinking, oh, this guy's 8 foot tall, maybe 500 pounds. How's he going to maintain that? One way they're going to maintain that is to have a very different metabolism than ours. And our metabolism makes us a little bit vulnerable to things like diabetes and gaining fat. And for them, they're built purely to make muscle in order to carry the skeletal system of somebody that tall. So they have a whole different metabolism than us. And that's another thing to look at. They may not need as many calories to build as much muscle because they're not trying to do a lot of the other things that our bodies do very inefficiently. So they're obviously lean machines, and they're very powerful. At least the one I saw in the Sierras, he was more slender than Patty. But Patty was obviously a woman who had had a child. She was a little softer, a little bit thicker. But the one I saw was not. He wasn't gaunt at all. He just was very efficient in the way his muscle structure was. And they're growing these huge glute muscles, and their thigh muscles are enormous. Anybody that's ever seen one, that was the thing that impressed me the most. Was the bottom half of the body was short but so strong. It was quite different than the proportions of our bodies. So we're also looking at something that in humans, when we grow our height, we grow our height first in the upper muscles like the thighs and the upper arms. Then we grow the lower arms and the lower legs, and then we grow the spine last in adolescence. That's where we get a lot of our height. For them, their spine is much more proportionally longer than ours. So they have sort of a prolonged adolescence, I guess I'd say. And so they're utilizing their nutrition in a different way than we are to build a different body. That's why you and I don't look like gorillas when we eat too many vegetables. Their metabolism is made to give them enough muscle strength to climb trees and fight.
Yeah, now I know the ones that I like back in October of 13, I had a 6 foot juvie walk out in front of me, and he was it was black as a Labrador. He had a brown face, of course, big feet. His arms, like you said, the shorter part is a little shorter than the upper part, but he was slim, but he was looked like he'd been pumping weights all his life. And when he took off up the ridge, because I got out of the Jeep and went to approach him, how fast they can run and
Yeah.
everything. But he was slim, and in my area, we got acorns, hickory nuts, walnuts. Ah, Daniel Benoit is finally joining us.
Hey,
Acorns, walnuts. How you doing? I mean, we got got a variety of tree treats. I call them tree treats that they can eat. Hickory
Yes.
nuts. You got little berries called tea berries, TEE berries. In Virginia mountains, they're called turkey berries because people taking. When I was in Boy Scouts, we used to. Our scoutmaster told us to take them and put them out, chew them up, and take your finger and brush your teeth with them. They smell like mint.
Yep.
So um, different areas of the country has a different food source for the squatches. Now around here, we got buku of deer, squirrel, uh, possum, polecats. It's anything that's edible. You can even eat a mountain woodpecker. The ones that are like 2 foot tall. You can
Yep.
also eat them. Uh, you got the brains. You can eat
Hey,
squirrel brains. No, yes, Daniel. Okay. But anyway, you can. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff in these Virginia mountains, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm live. Okay, he done backed out again. Okay. Yeah, I know. Okay.
He's a
Okay.
ghost in the machine.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so far in Virginia, I got buku amounts of food sources. All right, out west where you live at, you got jackrabbits, roadrunners, lizards, uh,
Javelina. Yeah.
javelina. Oh, that's a hog.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
our wild boars.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're supposed to have boar wild hogs here in Virginia somewhere, but we was told that they are nuisance species. And I know in Alabama, one guy saw a squatch smack a smack a hog and then crush him when he hit him a couple times, to eat him, stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
food sources are good here, And here's another question: What do the babies? What do the juvenile Sasquatches eat? All right, after a while, when they're first born, all right, we know to a point they're on mother's milk.
Right. Yeah.
Then they
That's a
then
given.
right then they go into solid foods, which one might be acorns,
Mhm.
hickory nuts, um, sassafras berries,
Yes.
leaves. I know there's certain tree bark that they can eat that gets a health benefit plus a medical benefit, which we're talking about
Oh yeah.
sassafras,
Yeah.
sassafras, and
I think that's why
sassafras.
we see so many sassafras trees that are bent. There's a lot of young trees that you find bent. I think they're trying to utilize a lot of the tree, and that just brings it down to the ground. They're certainly too big to climb one of those baby trees.
Well, I find a ton of sassafras trees all ripped all to shreds. Like I sent a video to you last year on the medical purposes for Sasquatch. And these trees, you got your roots, you got the bark, you got the berries, you got the leaves. Okay, there's a certain film between the bark and the tree. It's kind of like the layer of tissue that's over your muscle.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, you can take that and chew it, and it would be like it affects you two ways. It could cure your stomach ache, or it could be like taking a hit of speed.
Yeah.
That is a process and that and
True.
everything. So it's
Yeah.
just it's pretty interesting. I say
Yeah,
we
there's a
had
lot of medicinals out there. I'm sure they utilize the medicinals. And when it comes to the youth, I mean, when I'm thinking about the babies, I mean, they're in a situation in which, of course, the baby's nursing, but I would have to guess that for someone who's going to be progressively that tall for their age, they're going to have to wean really rapidly. And probably the only way that a mother's going to be able to feed her baby and get her baby into transition is either to find roots and things that they can mash down with a stone, or the mother's actually going to have to pre-digest it by chewing it and then taking it and giving it to the child, a pre-chewed. So I mean, there's some methods they're going to have to use in order to get those calories in that fast growing child.
hmm and the curiosity of a Sasquatch. I know they like cinnamon rolls. I know they like peanut butter.
Snickers, yeah.
But I'll tell you what I did when I first started this in where I videoed the family group. I went in there. Me and a buddy of mine went in there like a month earlier, and we set up. I took two sticks about 2 foot tall, and I took peanut butter, and I took the peanut butter with the plastic jars, shoved them down with a stick, and put them in the ground. Okay, I held the jars up, and I said, "This is how you loosen it." And I showed them what I did, and I took the lid off. Now I said, "Put the lid back." I said, "This is how you," and I turned my hand. This is how you put the lid back on, and I held went like that. Well, I come back the next day. The jars were gone. The lids were laying. I had a red lid and a blue lid, smooth and crunchy. The the stick was licked clean, and the lids were laying down next to the sticks.
Yeah.
Now, every time I set my area up, I always take a stick or a rake or something, and I clean the area, clean it real good. When I come back, there's about a million footprints there, little ones to big ones,
Yes.
and they sit. They can sit all the way around it. But the thing is, I found the jars. I did this for about like 3 months, and I found every jar. When I come down the path to my baiting area, there's a pine tree, a big pine tree over to my right. I just happened to walk through one day, and I found the jars stacked on top of each other in 3 rows.
Yes. They're very OCD that way.
I put my video camera out there one day, and that's when I got where it said "Baby Juvie Sasquatch." And I tell people the first 2 minutes is what you need to listen to. And if you listen, you can hear something, hear them coming. They'll run down through you, and all of a sudden they'll stop, and they'll slowly, and they'll get right to the camera, and all of a sudden you hear crunch, and then all of a sudden you hear a little. But you gotta listen. They take a stick and they pluck my camera.
Yep. Yep.
I've even put little teeny mirrors in front of it to look behind the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Even the little ones. I mean, you can hear them. I've tried it different ways, but I know that. But the peanut butter they like, I put apples in it. I put bananas in it. And I show them what I'm doing while I'm doing it.
Yes.
So we know they like them stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
and that's something people miss out on. A lot of times, researchers miss out on the fact that you're maybe you're not necessarily habituating in that you live in a property that you're encouraging them to cohabitate on. You're going out into their territory, but it's a form of habituation, going out there regularly to the same places. You're getting them used to the fact that you're a food source, but also it's critical that you talk to them. People say, well, that's silly, they don't understand you. They absolutely understand your tone. You talk to your family dog, and you don't worry that he doesn't understand English. You can talk. So you give them your name, tell them what you're doing, demonstrate. Just know that they're watching you when you really don't think there's anyone there.
yeah, because when I go in, um, yeah, I talk to them. First thing I do, I go, Ushka or Ushka Yate. And if they're around and they feel like answering, they will either grunt, throw a rock at me, which is not here, which is almost all the time now, or they'll do a tree knock. And they're getting notice every time I come out there with like a bag of cinnamon rolls or some anything with like it's something good but it's a little sweet, a little salty and sweet. They
Oh
get
yeah.
they get closer and closer and closer. Right now, the closest that I've estimated on my videos is 15 feet or less.
Yeah, that's another thing we have to consider too about what's going on with Sasquatch is that they are this generation of Sasquatch are growing up in a very different world than their parents. I don't know if they're just not listening to their parents say, the hairless short ones are bad, but they're willing to come really close because they know we have dumpsters, they know we throw food out, they know that we have roadkill where the cars drive. The problem is we're getting them really close to places where they could get hurt. And that's kind of scary. I don't want them in roadways. I don't want them trusting people they shouldn't trust. I don't want them finding food sources in us. I want them to remember, it's like those fat birds at McDonald's parking lot. You watch them eating French fries and you're like, dude, go get real bird food. You're getting fat. This is what's going to be happening to Sasquatch. I know one habituator that leaves sweets out, but also leaves fruits out. They won't even take the fruit anymore. They don't want it. They're like, dude, this is in the Cinnabon. They want the treats. So we're training them to do all the wrong things, and it's going to put them in really risky places. If you could get really good calories that are super sweet and awesome and lots of fat and sugar and salt, in taking a risk to go to a dumpster compared to going out and chasing a deer down in the woods? What do you think you're going to do?
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
right.
we're ruining them.
Yeah, because that one that walked out in front of me a couple of years ago, he was headed toward from right side of the road to the left side of the road. We got about a mile back from where my research area is a park place called Shenandoah Acres, which is like a lake and a campground. It's made for city people to come in the mountains. And they have dumpsters there. Plus, we have a suburb called Ridgeview Acres. At the end of each block, at the, because it goes private property, then national forest, and they got dumpsters right there, and
Yeah.
that's where that little one was hiding. I've got a lady over on Horseshoe Circle who was outside her property runs in national forest. She walked around the side of the building and took a picture of her horse, and right about 20 feet on the other side of the horse was the Sasquatch standing there looking at her. She never seen it though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Showed me the picture.
That's how it goes. And that's a new phenomena that we've discovered in research too, is that Sasquatch are really sharp about rest stops along freeways, and they're very sharp about our park system because they know we have these trash cans everywhere, and they're filled with all this wonderful stuff. Now they take the bag out, they drag it out into the woods, they dump it out, and they bring the bag back. They're dumping our garbage, but they're dumping it as a lure, basically, to bring in other smaller creatures that they can eat. So they're not necessarily eating what they're finding in these, but we're finding the bones and the piles of trash out in the field. So if you're out in the woods and you find trash in a park that's in a big pile, get a really good look around it. There might be some footprints. There might be some signs that somebody's been actually hunting there.
Yeah,
And it's a brilliant.
yeah, we have like I said, we got Shenandoah Acres, and we got Shenandoah Lake. All right, now Daniel's been up to the lake, and I think it was last year. It was Daniel, his daughter, and another guy was out there, and her daughter got a glimpse that whatever she saw, it scared her. So we know
Yeah,
that.
it had
Go
her
ahead.
crying. No,
Yeah.
I was just saying it had her crying. I mean, first she was up ahead of us. She was pointing at something. I had no clue what she was pointing at. But but after I walked up to her, I looked over at her. She was like literally crying, tears rolling out of her eyes, pointing at whatever she was seeing. And she said, "It's looking at me, Dad. It's looking at me." I looked up. I said, "Where?" All I saw in the distance was this, fairly large tree. And she said it kept peeking out at her. I was like, "Okay." I mean, I didn't see nothing, but I don't know. It was kind of interesting though, because later on, about 20, 10, 15 minutes later, after we moved up a little ways, we were spread out again, and there was a big bush that was up in front of me. I didn't see what it was. All I saw was a bush shook kind of violently, and something took off. But did not see a glimpse of it or nothing. I don't know. I mean, it was pretty thick, so it's crazy though. But
Yeah. Okay, so
yeah.
I want you to throw in the mix here. Your assumption, being a researcher in my area and in your area, as far as food sources go, what have you noticed that, in your opinion, of researching that you think squatches munch on most out in or in the areas that you've been in?
Well, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I mean, I have thought about this, but not entirely. You know, you know, in a lot of ways, I compare a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot to um, a bear. I've seen a lot of fresh bear signs up in recent days here, especially today while I was out. A lot of times they've been digging and grubbing for. I mean, they tear up open, logs, digging holes. Um, it could be a little bit there. I believe there's a possibility that excuse me, squatches might share similar food habits with bears. Um, you know, especially with a lot of a lot of their other behaviors are related and similar to squatches and bears. They have so much relation as far as behaviors, but food sources as far as I don't know. I mean, if you want to consider possible, our known primates, like a lot of the vegetation. I mean, they're omnivores. They definitely eat meat, and they definitely have to have vegetation. Um, some people, I think I've heard you even mention there's a possibility that they eat bark. I believe that's a good possibility. I mean, deer eat bark. Bears been known to do that. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I haven't really given it much thought, but I think whatever they eat, I think we should consider looking at what bears eat as well, because I think there's a lot of similarities along that line. Uh, but
What do you think? What do you
I
think
have.
about what do you think about the sassafras tree?
I think that's very possible, especially with it being a natural minty kind of tree. Is used for a lot of uses, especially like tea. So I mean, I don't see why not. So
Okay.
I
Well,
believe that's very very possible though.
yeah, I see we have a guest from Canada, Keith Carlton Ross.
Hello,
You know,
everybody.
I think it's the first time I've shouted at you, isn't it?
Good. I like the hat.
Yeah. Well, I want like good you're on air. Out of your way up there in Canada, what kind of food sources do you think Sasquatches eat up there in your area of the tundra?
Ocean. We got the ocean out here, so a lot of it is clams, seafood, oysters,
What about
salmon.
what about seal meat?
Um, Unless they find them dead on the beach, seals,
Hmm.
whales, but they won't hunt them.
Okay. Now, right now, you've been doing some. I think you've been doing some guide tours or guided bear guides out there for bear hunting.
I have in the past. I haven't lately.
Okay. What have you noticed as far as in the woods in your area, as far as food sources go, that you think that Sasquatches could survive out there?
Oh man, the elk. I think they really follow the elk, and that's their main food source because they would feed so many of them, and they're easier to catch than the deer.
Why?
Well,
Because they're
they.
bigger.
And we got really small deer out here. They're not big like yours. Ours are about the size of a large German Shepherd.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're small.
That sounds like Arizona deer.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, they're doing really well.
Okay.
But
Well,
it's mainly the elk, the fish, the elk, a lot of berries, mushrooms, chanel,
okay. So, all right.
pine.
Right. So basically, we're saying that in each part of the country, food sources are similar, but they're all different to a certain point. Like where you live at, you got the ocean. You say they got the clams, all sorts of seafood and stuff like that. And in Sharon's area in Arizona, she's got the jackrabbit. The what's that hog again?
Javelina. But also,
Javelina.
the majority of our Sasquatch are up in the high country, and it has pretty much the same thing as any other high country has. I mean, you can find fiddleheads and berries, wild grapes. You find mussels in the creeks, turtles, all kinds, frogs, you name it, deer. I mean, we've got pretty much the same stuff.
I tell you, back back last year and the past couple of years, I used to find, and I know um um coons would find mussels in our creeks and streams.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that for the past 2 years, and
Hmm.
I'm all through the mountains from Mill Creek, or my area is considered big levels. Because
Hmm.
see, the George Washington National Forest is well over 130,000 acres. Like I'm in Augusta County, in my George Washington National Forest. Daniel's area is George Washington National Forest, but his is over next to the West Virginia line, so he's got quite a few thousands of acres that run into nothing but mountain. My area, I got the Blue Ridge Parkway to Appalachian Trail, so they do travel up the East Coast like that. So basically, in each state, there is one particular or two particular things that are different from what we have in our state as far as food sources go.
But their habits are really similar no matter where they are. One thing you'll find is that they will go to a ravine or a gorge where there is a creek or a river at the bottom. And you will find evidence of them up along the hill line up above where they actually walk back and forth pacing and watching the creek or the stream to see if it's clear. They come down, they get what they want. They don't eat it there. They don't want to picnic out in the open. They take it all the way up the hillside, and you'll find turtle shells that are literally stacked one on top of another where they sat up on the hill eating and watching the gorge just to be sure who's coming. And you'll find at the top of these ridges, there'll be large rocks where they've taken a big boulder or rock and banged it onto another rock and literally cracked that rock. But that's how they send that reverberating sound throughout to signal the others. So really, you think, oh, well, the creek or the river is their food source, I'll look there. No, go up the hill. That's where you're going to find the evidence of where they were camped out, watching, pacing, and hanging out. So you have to think kind of reverse of what your instincts would say.
Right. Okay. Mitchell Waite was on Finding Bigfoot one time, and I think it was in Arizona or somewhere like that, where he was at a campground and got that squatch that come in and raided his cooler, and Matt and them thought it was a human or something like that, But he was saying that the juveniles would come down and run buku on the flatland while the adults sit on top of the ridge and watch them.
Yeah.
Now, I can agree to that, because
there's a lot of people that say also they have a system when they're going through adolescence where the youth are taught how to live among us short people safely. And one of the things that they do that's like a rite of passage is they have to get close enough to one of us humans and to touch us without us knowing. And that's sort of a rite of passage that they have to prove themselves. It's just amazing. When you look back, I mean, and because you take some really awesome video, when you look back at your video, you see all the things you didn't see with your own eyes at the moment. Even though you're looking for Sasquatch, you're not seeing them until you review your video and you go, hey, what was that? Because they literally absorb the dark and the light. They can just stay, all they have to do is stay still. They know it. If they just freeze, you're not going to see them. If they move, you will see them. And they are tree peekers. They will look around trees. So when you look at a tree, look at it for a while and see. They will poke their head out.
Well, I'll tell you, when I got this, go ahead, Daniel.
Oh no, I was just gonna mention that I've been doing that a lot more often though, because and it's common for a lot of people that have their eyes or their mind to play tricks on them. But like today when I was out in a different area in Fred's area that I have not been to before, and I'm hearing activity, I'm hearing movement around me, and I've given off a couple of vocalizations of my own, and for a while I'll sit, be quiet, and I've heard tree knocks up ahead of me. I've heard one or two off to the sides of me. So at some points when I'm hearing things, I've actually dropped down to one knee, got low, because I'm actually climbing elevation, so I'm listening and scanning very slowly with my eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm also at the same time I'm taking pictures of different finding structures and whatnot, but at the same time I'm slowly scanning my camera, because even though I'm looking one way, I might not catch something, so maybe I'll view it later and I might see something that I didn't catch while I was out there. So yeah, I definitely agree with staring at trees, but I'm scanning the tree line, because this where I was today, it was open but yet thick at the same time, so it was definitely interesting. So I've been trying to work on that, as far as panning and all that too.
Yeah,
So.
because
they really are watching your head movement. So that's the key. Wherever you look, if you look away, that's when they're going to move. So you kind of want to, if you're panning, you want to move your head with the camera, so that gives them that opportunity to leave. You can pan back, and then you catch that they're gone. So it's really comparing the pan back and forth and see what changed.
Yeah,
it's like Where's Waldo? I mean, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like on that one video where I left the cinnamon rolls, and I went back in the video and I copied it and I sent it to you. 2 times. The first time I had one at 80 yards, and here's the tree. All of a sudden, there's something out there about that far. It kind of looked like it's here, and I zoomed in, and I got zoomed in so close you could see the hair on its arm. I couldn't see the face. Well, Herb sent me back the same picture, and It was like a big tree and two small trees, and that squatch's face, and I got this much. He got that much of the face. And the juvenile were the one I got when I panned from my right to my left. There was that one there, but there was one dead in front of me. I seen it, but I went to the right a little bit more to look at something a little further up. It was in a brush. And when I come back, and I didn't pay attention to it, but I do now, when I slowly moved, he looked at one that was on his knees, and he just melted right behind that tree. So yeah, I'm starting to go slow on that process too, you know. And I've heard them munch on peanut butter before.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I left my audio recorder in that baiting area one time when I first started this, and you can hear them go. You can hear them smacking their lips. I go get the jar. You know, finally when I went to get the jars, there were no holes in it, which mean a bear got a hold of it. There were no holes in them jars or in the lids whatsoever, and it looked like you put them through a dishwasher. That's how clean they were. So, you know, I'm thinking, well, maybe I ought to go out and plant some peanuts.
Well, you know, here's what one researcher. There's a researcher I know who's been doing it for, I don't know, 50 years probably. He went into a cave where he knew they had been sort of hiding out. He'd been following their footprints over and over. He'd been leaving them peanut butter, and they loved it. One day he went into the cave and he decided, okay, I'm going to try something different. Maybe I can kind of catch them a little bit. So he took the peanut butter and he literally painted the wall of the cave with peanut butter way up high, about 8 or 9 feet. And they had been licking away at that peanut butter off that wall and leaving their handprints in it. So sometimes you have to think outside the box.
I've seen 11-inch handprints already. One area I went into was actually, matter of fact, was right across from the camp. That's where Herb thought he seen what it said was a dog man, whatever. But in a little fixed spot, where the creek bed was dry, was a little soggy spot, and there was an 11-inch handprint. But
Hey, I found a handprint over in that area too. Not to mention today, one of the pictures I had actually posted earlier from today. It may have been a bear track, but this one here looked a little different. I've seen all different styles, shapes, and sizes of bear tracks, front and rear paws. This one here stood out a little different to me. This one here appeared to be almost like actually a large hand. I don't know. I mean, it was actually in the leaves, and I saw a couple other tracks in the leaves where their impressions, whatever left it was heavy enough to where the leaves were completely flat. And in this one particular picture, they actually looked like a hand. You know, perhaps it might have been a partial fist. I don't know. If you look at my photos that I posted today, because like it almost looked like it was an impression of this here.
yeah, I got that in that area, but it was. I mean, you could tell it was a handprint because I should have casted it. I didn't have no plaster with me that day. I need to get some more.
Because I mean, I've seen bear tracks with maybe long toes or whatever you want to call them, fringes, but this one here it looked too wide but yet long. So I mean, it could like I said, it could have been a bear, but to me it looked like a handprint. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I posted it. I'll have to double check, make sure I didn't leave it out. But so,
Carl, what kind of evidence have you found in your area, as far as tracks, handprints, teeth marks, or anything like that?
I found a 15-foot trackway up on the lake, and that was interesting. I'm working the mountain that's behind them right now, so
Yeah.
I got that last December, and so this December, this winter, I'll be tracking that area back up above the lake.
So
Hoping for
Keith,
more track.
yeah, not to interrupt you, Keith, but I was just curious. Now, are you native to Canada up there?
I was born in Manitoba, Winnipeg.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So I was wondering, are you familiar with the Micmac legends?
A few of them.
Okay. Like
There's a lot.
the Gogwe, or they have different dialect names for the Micmac legend of Bigfoot, like the Gugwe, the Gauju. I don't know if I'm actually a couple of them I might not be pronouncing correct, but yeah, because Micmac Indian bloodline runs through my blood, so because I'm most of my family from my father's side's from Canada, so yeah,
Nice.
yeah, so yeah.
Oh, they got some activity happening up. They got some howling happening up island right now, up at one of the native villages. They got some major howling happening up there.
Hmm.
We got John Bingernagel has got a
Yeah,
couple cameras up in that area right now, a few recording devices, and he's got a few people up there doing some research for him.
that's awesome. John Bindernagel, he's an excellent biologist. I studied a lot of his work, and as well as Jeff Meldrum and them. But yeah, he's a real good biologist, and I like how he keeps a very open mind.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Bigfoot legend. So
So we
very
cannot,
good.
yeah. So we all can agree that in Canada, uh, out west, Virginia mountains, you got similar food sources, and um, you got the ocean where they get their seafood at.
Yeah.
Okay. Here in Virginia, we got thousands of acres and a lot of parks with dumpsters, so we know they go dumpster diving. I've heard of one guy was doing something out behind a restaurant one night, and he happened to walk up beside a dumpster and was getting ready to look in it, and all of a sudden a squatch popped out. I think it was a small squatch, popped up, and it was like maybe 4 foot from each other. I think the guy, he kind of freaked out, and I think Squatch did too, or something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, but like I say, Shandor Acres, Sharanda Lake, back in 1960, no, 1976, we had a lady from California. Her and her husband was traveling across country, and they come down here to Virginia, and they camped out at Sharanda Lake, and they didn't have a tent, or nothing, so they slept in the back of the bed. They didn't have a tent. They didn't have a top over nothing. And she said she was laying there, and her husband was sleeping in the back of the truck. And she laid there. And she said she heard something heavy walking toward them. And before I get to that part, what they did, they took their trash and they hung it up about 10 feet up in the tree to keep the bears away. All right, she said whatever come walking up her way, 'cause she was scared, it stopped and looked down at them, and then he took off, walked up to the tree, grabbed a trash bag, walked right by the truck again, looked at her. He went on in the woods, and she could hear him going through the trash and everything. Then he comes back through there, looks again, grabs the other bag of trash, comes back, looks at her again, and goes. All right, the next morning, the park rangers come up to him and start raising cane with him. She said, "You ain't going to believe what grabbed them bags." Her husband said, "Well, I have tied them bags 10 feet up in the air." And the game commissioner said, "Well, nothing should have got it." She says, "What come by me last night and watched me?" She took them over to the truck and showed them there was two 14.5-inch tracks stopped right there where she was laying. So they come in, instead of going dumpster diving, they went bag diving because they had left a mess about 30 yards back up in the woods. They got all the banana peelings, apple cores, anything to get their hands on that was edible. So now that happened here in Sharanda, and there's a lot of squatches up and down the Blue Ridge Parkway and the Appalachian Trail, plus over in West Virginia. So the food sources vary a lot, in my opinion. Okay, Sharon. Oh, like
Hey,
I say, yes.
oh no, no, I was just gonna make a joke. I said,
Yeah, you
yeah.
always gonna make a joke.
I was gonna say you calling the Sharon. Just keep in mind, this
Yeah,
is your show. You're the host.
I
So
have actually on
Hey,
my blog on Just Hunting Theories. I had actually done a post in the past about Sasquatch, how to eat like a gourmet Sasquatch, and it was really basically the nutritional value and how to cook things that Bigfoot actually eats in the woods. So I had come up with a list. A pound of deer meat is about 336 calories. It's 96 grams of protein. Now that's packing. Catfish are 215 calories. They're 25 grams of protein. Even mussels, they're a great source of vitamin B12. You have juniper berries. You have, oh my goodness,
Yeah, my
fiddle
wife.
ferns,
Yeah, my wife. I tried to get her to eat some
lamps.
squirrel a couple of days ago, and I told her, I said, it's healthy for you. Well, she went on the internet and bought up this paper page that had nutritional value for everything.
Yeah.
Well, since she had triple bypass surgery, there's things she can and can't have. Now, I thought deer meat would be good because deer meat is pure protein.
Yeah, and
It's
lean.
yeah, it's lean and healthy for you, but
It is.
it's got carbohydrates or something like it, something in it that she can't have.
Well, it has 80 milligrams of cholesterol, but that's not
That's
bad
it.
because, yeah, I mean, if you look at beef or you look at chicken, that's a lot more than that. So it's actually much better if you're going to try to get rid of the cholesterol issue. And that's another question. What disease does Bigfoot have? I mean, what are they dealing with out there? I mean, I guess we could look at some of the medicinal things that they use and make some assumptions, but I mean, they have to be pretty impervious, if you think about it, to things like West Nile virus, yellow fever, any tick disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, any of those things that you could, dysentery. I mean, so many things they could run into out there in the streams and in the woods and in the swamps, especially like East Texas. I mean, it's like mosquito riddled. How are they surviving that? You know, they must have an immune system that is totally adapted. I mean, maybe breastfeeding the young is giving them the immunities the parents have. Snake bites, a lot of people talk about them eating snakes, killing snakes. They don't seem to have any fear of snakes.
I don't either. They taste good.
Yeah, I mean, something you took up.
Would you grab a rattler with your hand though?
No, but now here in Virginia, as you should know, we live in a big salad bowl, which is limestone. Limestone filters water, right?
Yeah,
So you can
purification.
right, so you can drink it. So we know that's not the problem, but we do have sassafras. We do have certain uh, certain plants that have medical purposes. You know, like what they call backwoods medical. Old
Yeah.
timers use. You know, old timers use it. You know, I
My
mean,
mom grew up in the Depression era, and she was in West Virginia, and she made a living for her family by going out in the woods and getting medicinals and collecting them because her mom
right,
was a midwife. She was the only doctor.
right. So Sasquatch has got to know stuff like that naturally because
Hmm.
if they are human hybrid, they've got someone or something had to teach them what is good and what is bad as far as
Well, I mean,
medical stuff.
just like any other known animal. I mean, as far as family trait, I mean, the traits from the parent is passed on to the young. But like right along the lines of what Sharon was saying, as far as the immunity of their system and through a period of time, they adapted or into eating the different uh, things. They probably eat things that we don't eat. They probably eat
Oh yeah.
like we mentioned earlier, like stuff like the bark. Maybe they might eat certain trees. And for example, a lot of people don't know, but ferns are edible. I mean,
Right,
the root of the fern.
right.
So I mean, there could be a big variety of things that they do eat.
Yep.
Especially when we look at the
Um,
vegetation.
They get very
Pine.
distracted the springtime when they're digging up fiddleheads from the ferns. They're down there digging, and that's when they often get, people sneak up on them by accident. In
Yeah.
springtime, they're feasting on those, massively. And
Yeah.
they're also breaking up the bones. That's another thing that people don't realize is the marrow in the bones is really
That's
critical, and they don't waste that at all. They snap the bone open and they suck the marrow right out of it.
right. And the
Mhm.
and pine needles. You can take pine. Like pine is it's kind of a substitute filler. You know, like they're hungry and like with them, they're probably hungry and they can't find the food right off the bat. So what do? They grab some pine needles because you can take pine and boil it and make a tea. It's a little tart, but you can drink it, and
Now,
it's actually healthy for you.
if they're eating pine needles, which that's actually I would consider. possibly a good breakdown for their digestive system. I mean, because as far as pine needles is a high acidity, plant. A lot. I know people who have actually used pine needles as far as for certain plants and grown things to help produce a higher acidic soil. Which
Yeah,
I mean, I believe a majority of the George Washington National Forest here, most of the territory, I mean, the ground, because we get a lot of rain, especially in the western parts of Virginia here. So a lot of the ground is acidic, where, you know, like especially out there, you got more pine trees that are produced and bigger and healthier looking out there. But back to the pine needles, it is the highest acidic plant. So
yeah. Now, up there where Carl is at, I think you got a lot of big giant fern trees up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. We got big firs, cedars.
Yeah, because there's right between, like I was telling Sharon, certain trees, like fern is one of them, pine's another one, uh, um, sassafras, hickory, certain types of hickory, and other plants you can take and go down. Like I was telling Sharon, you got like the skin, like we got tissue over our muscles to hold the muscles in place. All right, same way with the tree, there's a skin that they can eat. That's could be good for like a headache, or be good for like a belly ache or something like that. As far as a municipal part for it,
Yeah,
most
I've
people.
actually seen that I think like conifers, pine and cedar and such. You can actually see those fibers from underneath the bark. You know how there's like that stringy fiber? You can actually see that in their poop. So they are using it.
Yeah. So we got that. So, what should I say? Basically, everything in the woods is either edible for health value or stay healthy, whatever, eat whatever. Then you got your municipal as far as medical, your plants, your roots, your herbs. There's another thing that most people really don't think about. It's called the dryland cress. You find them around creeks and ponds and stuff. It's a something like creasy greens. It's got a
Yeah,
little peppermint type little heat to it.
yeah. It's like ramps are another thing that are really prevalent, and
Uh,
dandelion.
uh,
Yeah.
ramp. My mother-in-law used to bring fresh
I've
out
tried. I've tried. And I love greens. I'm like a veggie freak, but still. Mm.
ramps. No, no. West Virginia ramp? No, thank you. Because you eat one serving of it and you smell like a ramp.
Yeah,
Because it,
yeah.
'cause it comes through your
Well, and you
skin.
have wild ginseng too. There's another medicinal. So
Oh, no,
yeah,
that's like gold around
yeah.
here.
And then there's mushrooms and there's toadstools. There's all kinds of different things. So yeah, I don't worry about their diet. I worry more about their dependence on us. And now that they think of us as a food source, we're sort of become the McDonald's drive-through window. I'm worried because they have spent, how many tens of thousands of years hiding from us, and that is their directive. That is their purpose. Their reason for being is to try to avoid us. And now we're just tempting them too much. And I have to think that we could be causing diabetes and all kinds of diseases in them, and dependence. And at some point there may be a Sasquatch that walks out of the woods, some youth puts his hands up in the air and says, I'm waving a flag, take me, please, I want to live with you. It's too hard out there. So
Well,
I don't know what it's doing to their population. I'm sure it's dwindling over time. There's just not that many resources. Not that it's not going to be that easy to mate, to find, mates. I know they do usually follow waterways. They look for confluences where a couple of waterways meet, and that's usually where they meet in the spring and hopefully meet up and match up. But I'm sure it gets harder every year. So I'm sad that they may end up going sort of extinct without us ever even recognizing them, and that's such a tragedy.
well, like in my area, they're getting closer. The more I work at this, the more I work my areas, I'm just curious to how close they will get to me. If one touches me, that's fine. They might already have. I don't know. But each time I go out there, they're getting closer and closer. Because I go out there, I sing to them. I just come up with some of the off the wall stuff, as you've seen on my videos. You know, but
Yeah.
it's
Well,
it's
yeah, and there's a loneliness to them too. Their existence is very lonely. I can't tell you how many hours of audio I've listened to of a lone Sasquatch singing, talking, chanting to himself, even rattling off the names of his clan. It's very lonely. So when you go out there and you're not threatening and you're predictable, which is really critical for them, they need those patterns. They need to know, when does this dude usually come by and where does he stay and does he come into my area? So you don't want to threaten or push too much the boundaries, but you want to have repeatability. They're very OCD that way. You'll notice they'll line up rocks and sticks and things in a certain order. You give them something, they will line it up all pretty in a certain way, and it's very OCD. They need these things for security. So you need to be really respectful of their boundaries, allow them their little panic rooms, and come and go at the same time, doing about the same thing. And I think that's why Fred's so very successful at it. He's like the sun. They know he's going to come up. They know where he'll go. They know his voice, and they can get closer because they don't feel threatened. They know Fred's not going to launch himself at us.
what's so funny, Carl?
My sweetie just stuck in, that's all.
Oh, okay. You remember what I was telling you last night, Sharon, about that video I sent you, the guy playing the flute? I'm thinking about, now I got buku cassettes of stuff like that. From the Navajo, Apache, Cherokee, Sioux, Blackfoot. And besides, I used to live on a Pamunkey reservation down in Exeter, Jamestown, back a few years ago. And I'm thinking about going out and I got a stereo system, a little boombox I could take with me. And I want to get out there at the crack of dawn in the middle of a holler and just cut it on and turn it up about like on 3. And just sit down next to a tree and see what happens.
It's a good idea. I've thought about that. Didgeridoo is a good thing. A didgeridoo, that Australian instrument, that very long thing, it gets into sort of the infrasound range. That's something that might be attractive. And I've heard that ancient civilizations were obsessed with 110 hertz. There's something about that resonance that I guess sang to them. That's why they made certain stone structures certain ways, so that when they speak or chant, it would create that sound. So that might be a satisfactory sound that they may like. It may be the sound of their ancestors.
I've heard chanting. I took Daniel and his girlfriend up to the birthing area, and the plainest day, we heard them chant, the chattering, just blah, 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 blah. Then I took them across the creek and took them to another area, and I told his girlfriend, I said, let out a whoop or some kind of yell. Well, just our luck, about maybe 30 yards away, there was a juvenile there trying to imitate some kind of animal, a bird or but he followed us. He followed us in. He followed us out. But he stayed. I noticed that they were doing that, and everything, But I knew they was going to be following us. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got a couple responses that same day too. Because when we came off that one ridge, where we all regrouped, we went down and came up to the other ridge. We all kind of were resting, trying to catch our breath.
Yeah.
I gave off that wood knock. We got 2 responses back to back.
That's right, we did, didn't we?
Yeah, from the same ridge that we just came from. So they were definitely following us. But we just came from there. And over to our left, we got knock, and over to the right, within about 5 seconds later after the first knock, we got another knock. So yeah, they were letting us know that they were there, where and they were letting each other know where they were at. So it was pretty cool, though.
Well, I'll tell you,
they escort you in and out. They really do. They are always there.
Now I'll tell you, last year when I was up in there, I seen the big female, the one that was pregnant on top of the ridge. But walking down the trail, I heard her knock on my left, knock on my right, and all of a sudden you hear, brrr, and then nothing. I get to the point, tap, 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 tap. They would do that all the way up that trail. And then they would stop and I did my stuff, and on my way out, they did the same thing all the way out. But they always go right to the creek at the first crossing, and as far as they go. But they would know as soon as I park my Jeep and go across 2 creeks, that's when they start following me. and I've done learned to tune my hearing to them. I listen because, like I said, I know the sound of the animals in our woods, and I know the sounds them little squatches make, as far as walking wise. People say, "Oh, that sounds like a deer." Well, a big 300-pound deer could be a squirrel. That's how good a squirrel is. That's what drives a hunter crazy. It's the squirrels. But I've learned to tune my hearing to the sound of them moving, like in the pine thickets. You can't hardly hear anything unless if you're walking, like if you're walking on the trail, you won't hear nothing. But if you're walking on the off the trail, you can hear, as you know, in pines, you got them limbs, and it sounds like Rice Krispies when you're walking. So it's kind of hard to sneak up on them. But they know when I hit the top of that ridge or the bottom of that ridge behind the apple orchard, they know I'm there. I smell that vanilla. Like the other day when I was up there, I smelled vanilla. As soon as I popped that 17 Super Mag, it sounded like I heard elephants run down through the pines.
Yeah.
But they did come back and check me out. They realized what I was doing, and I was shooting squirrels, and they're like, "Well, hell, he ain't gonna bother us." So then I went up there a day or two later with a friend of mine, and he went off, got a lot of gagging up in his area, and I ended up playing for about an hour, ring around the rosy with two of them, because they kept throwing rocks and knocking, throwing rocks and knocking. I keep following them. It was a game to them.
And that's really common too. They usually have like two sentinels. They go out together,
Yeah.
and they can go from two different directions and lead toward the middle where you are. So there's always one on each side of you watching you. And I think that's what they do in the daytime more. You'll probably hear a lot more activity at night. And the fact is they know that we're not out at night. And the one thing that gives us away is we have to use a light because we're so inferior. We can't see in the dark. But they have a big advantage. I think the night is when they come out, they feed, they get there. It's like us. In the daytime when it's light, we go out and we feed, and then at night we sleep. They have sort of the reverse, but they keep those sentinels out in the daytime, and they make sure everybody's safe while they're sleeping.
Well, I know the juveniles, I know when I come in here, I know the juveniles are messing around with me. And I know there is as you call it, sentinel. I call them day watchers.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the day watchers are the one that tells them, like, hey, this guy's safe. He ain't going to harm you or something like that. Because 2 years ago when I first started in my Kennedy Fields area, they were tearing my head up bad.
Yeah.
So I think after that they kind of realized, well, maybe this guy ain't so bad after all, because they do. I figured this out, and I've researched it and studied it. They do come back to the place they give birth at or they were born at. So the ones born this year, when they migrate, when springtime comes around here, they will go back to that spot and give birth to their young. And they will teach their young about if this oddball comes back in there and start talking to you again, who knows? It might work.
You're known as
Okay.
the peanut butter pusher. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll hook
Okay.
you up. You like
Okay.
crunchy, you like creamy. He's got it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We got 1 minute left. Let me get an opinion from each of the panel here. Daniel Benoit,
Yeah.
give me
Hey,
your final thought for the evening.
well, I was just going to bring up, you do have questions on the panel, on your YouTube panel. I'm looking at it through my phone right now.
I
Uh,
don't see that.
okay, you're not going to see it on yours. You got to go to the different YouTube page. Um, but I'm on it on my phone.
Okay. What are they
Um,
saying?
all right, here's one question right here. Has anyone heard of squatch tearing up orange peels into small dime-sized pieces? That's an odd one, but there's one
No,
there.
I've seen bananas tore up like that, but I haven't seen any oranges.
Yeah,
Hmm.
from what I've heard, they actually just eat the orange peel and all. They don't tear. But they might. I mean, if it's a youth, maybe they have. I don't know.
Okay.
Hmm.
What's the other one, Daniel?
Okay, hold on. I don't know what she's referring to. Something apparently it was something we were talking to 21 minutes ago because Stacy Johnson says something about I never heard one. Oh wait, I never heard of that. But things are always strange when it comes to Bigfoot. So I don't know. Whatever we might have been talking about 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Let me see. Hold on. Well, actually, that's kind of about it. It was just that one question about the orange peels.
Okay.
So
All
if
right.
she's, if, yeah, whoever that is watching, then yeah.
Okay. Give me your final thought.
Well, um, as far as food sources and everything, I'm gonna stick to, my theory with the bear behavior, which is I do find a lot of similarities with bears and their behaviors and patterns. So I don't see why we could rule out the possibility that bears and squatches share the same food habits. As far as vegetation, bugs, insects, grubs, tree bark, anything along those lines. So it's something to consider. Like I tell anybody else, just pay attention to your bears because you're going to see a lot of similarities. I mean, we can get into other details such as tracks, et cetera, et cetera. How there's a lot of similarities there. Um, but as far as food sources go, I'm going to keep it at that for now. And one other little announcement I'll throw out there: anyone watching or listening, especially if you're a Virginia, West Virginia resident, even Maryland or North Carolina, surrounding states. November 14th, if you haven't seen it, go to my timeline or look under Facebook events. We do have a Bigfoot Town Hall meeting gathering November 14th. It's from 1 to 3. And we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear if you had an encounter, a sighting, or something you might not be able to explain. We want you to come on out. The address and all the link information, directions are all provided through the link. But like I said, it's going to be here in Virginia at the Buckhorn Inn Bed and Breakfast. And Sharon, I invite you to come on out. The place, from what I understand, I
I might
understand.
be able to do it. I'll see if
Yeah,
things fall into place. I plan to hit the road soon.
okay, and this location has a history of being haunted from past
It is.
incidents.
Okay.
So
Got
yeah, there you go. So
Yeah.
all right, and there you go.
When we get off air, Sharon, I'll tell you about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
check out. I have the link posted on my timeline, so if you can't find it,
Okay.
yeah, feel free to check it out.
Great.
So
I want to publicize that on Ghost Hunting Theories too. So
awesome,
Cool.
definitely.
Okay, Carl, give me your letdown real quick. Final thoughts.
Oh, I don't know what to say. I like the bears. We got lots of them out here. So I'll follow the bears, follow the elk.
Okay, Sharon, your final thoughts for the day.
I would say, I think their metabolism, their hormones, their thyroid, all of those systems are probably different than ours. And so they may need a very similar caloric amount that we do. They may not need as much protein. They may need more protein. They may not need carbohydrates like we do for brain function. They might have a different hormonal system. So, it's just like somebody that likes to eat ice cream and they get fat and somebody else eats it and they're still skinny. They're going to maybe be different than us. So we can't really say it's apples and apples when it comes to us and them and needs nutritionally.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna have. Well, that's the end of the show for the thing. Like I say, I'm new at this, the beginning of it. So October 5th, we're gonna have another podcast. It's gonna be on medical purposes of the Sasquatch. So y'all study up and everything. My name's Fred Caney. If you want to get in touch with me, it's Fred Caney at validbigfooting.com, InsideVirginiaSquatch.com. If you want to get in touch with me, it's SkinnerGrizz at yahoo.com. Sharon Day, you can get in touch with her through Ghost Hunting Theories. What's your someone wants to talk to you.
You can go right to ghosthuntingtheories.com and all of my links to all my social media and my email, everything's there.
Okay. Daniel?
Yeah, if you guys want to contact me, my email is ecbro98@gmail.com. For those who may be viewing, I'm the founder of the ECBRO, if you're not familiar with who I am. Also, check out my YouTube channel, ECBRO98. You'll actually see a lot of Fred on there as well. But check me out. I have a lot of recent field videos, podcast shows similar to this, and that's about it. So.
Okay, this is Fred Caney, and the founder of Bigfoot Valley Bigfoot, whatever. Anyway, y'all have a nice time. Don't forget to come back October 5th at 8 p.m. We might have a 2-hour show, but don't know yet. We'll find out. So y'all have a great day, and see you later.